action as we do go into ZvT now, as we will start in the top right corner of the map. Starting the group 0-1, it is Rogue. Fighting against the red Terran in the bottom left corner of the map from Team Liquid, we've got uThermal. And we are almost back on schedule after a very fast first series and a bit of a longer second series. We get back on schedule here so far. Alright, well, a barrack setting up at the front as we get that going. We'll see what happens in the next little while. Obviously, uThermal is one of these players that's very dangerous against the Koreans usually. He usually is very good at kind of showing up and, you know, putting on a, putting on a bit of a show and kind of coming out with some fun builds and doing things a bit differently. You know, if I had to pick a European player to fight against Koreans, obviously, you know, you've got your obvious ones like Cyril and Clem and Reyno, etc. But I actually think, you know, uThermal is one of my top picks to fight against the Korean players as well, because he really does have a really good track record against Koreans. And I do think it's just, he brings a little bit of uniqueness without being completely like, you know, he brings like a bit of unique gameplay without completely reinventing the wheel. And I think that goes a long way, because it's solid and straight up enough to just be legit. But it's a bit different to the point where I can throw the Koreans off and give them that little bit of an edge as well. So yeah, excited to see what he brings out in this TVC. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see some mech in this series. Be fun to see how this this goes. And what's up, Phantom Krieger? Thank you so much for your 2-month resub on the Prime. People asking about servers. Well, actually, the server situation is simplified for this one because uThermal is in Mexico. So he's actually playing from NA, which means that he will play against Rogue on West every single time. So usually we just rotate servers a little bit, so it's West, Central, West or so for Europe versus Korea. Because uThermal is in America, it means that he just plays West, West, West. And that will be about equal things, maybe a bit advantageous to uThermal. But yeah, it's going to be kind of ping for both of them. I mean, Mexico isn't exactly right next to the West Coast server, you know? So, for example, when uThermal plays the Europeans today, he will play on the East Coast server on NA as well. The pings are always about even, within like 30 or 40 of each other, which obviously can be an advantage or a disadvantage, but it's not like someone is playing pingless against someone who's on like 350 ping or so. So Reba just going to ping around a little bit, and link speed on the way up from Rogue as we get that going. Our third hatchery is going to be going on. Going to be seeing Reaper getting back around into the middle of the map a little bit, and just going to see our Hellions continuing through. Starport will land up on a tech lab, and it will be able to start up a Banshee, and now Cloak on the way as well. So getting some Cloak Banshee setups going. Once again, Reaper Hellion poking at the front, and a couple of Queens just going to be able to say, "Nuh-uh." That Reaper Hellion force away. Plenty of Queens coming through. The link speed is going to be finishing. We do have the Armory of uThermal going to be on the way up as well, so that's going to be continuing through as this Marine taking on the Overlord. Overlord flying through all the way into the main base. Just wants to try and get a peek of what's up, and especially wants to see this Starport with a Cloak research. And that actually tells you with the timing of it all as well. There's no third CC early in this game, so you get a lot of information out of this actually as Rogue. What he will not know is that there's an armory as well. That's something the Overlord doesn't, you know, deep dive for. It probably could have done, but it would have died. He'd rather get that Overlord out of there alive. Having seen the Cloak Banshee, says, well, actually, I already feel like I know enough to be set up now. As our Hellions pulling back around to the top. A few spores still coming through. We do see our drones continuing to build up. A couple Queens on the way out. Our refineries building in the natural expansion as well. We have got this Hellion Reaper squad on a little bit of motion. Gonna decide to go up to the top side a little bit, I think. Spores are being brought in as our Hellions morph into Hellbats. Gonna see this Banshee getting cloaked up, and the Hellbats will move forward here. Gonna go get on top of these Queens. Queen's gonna get bopped around a little bit, in fact, to start us off there. And the defense is looking like it should be okay. The Banshee's putting out some good damage, though. Obviously, these Queens getting caught up in that fight still. Not having the best of times. It's just going to be seeing our Hellbats and our Banshees still continuing through. And just going to get away alive. Nice to keep some alive, because this means you do have them as a follow-up at some point. And uThermal just going to play Mech from here as well. Now, Mech is not super common off a Hellbat opening, because typically you want to build Battlecruisers and you want to be able to go with the BCs into into that BC harassment, which does so much for you. In this game, I imagine then we're going to keep building Banshees, maybe even go Hyperflight Rotors, use them to kind of fill the role of the BCs, and otherwise kind of set up from that point on. So yeah, that's the Hyperflight Rotors. Like I said, I think it just makes sense. The Banshees kind of fill the role of the BCs. You're not going to force Corruptors, but you're able to go in and say, right, I can, deal some damage, come back, deal some damage again. This is going to be really interesting. Rogue doesn't know that this is Mech. He started up a Bane Nest and 1/1 melee upgrades. Now he sees the Hellion count. He might start thinking to himself, what the hell am I playing against? And that is not a bad thing to be asking yourself, because actually it would be kind of good if you realized he was playing against Mech, because right now he is setting up to play versus Bio, and obviously that ain't going to be pretty. So needs to get that sorted out, needs to get that figured out, otherwise he is going to be in some serious doo-doo. Infestation Pit starts up right away, so it does seem as though he's got something of an inkling as to how exactly this is going to start going. All the upgrades are continuing through, just going to be seeing our Bane speed starting as well. I mean, I don't disagree necessarily. You're so far along, maybe commit to a bit of Ling Bane for now. The Infestation Pit at least gives me hope, because I maybe think this could be some Swarm Hosts, but I mean, Swarm Hosts haven't been a main thing against Mech for a while, and for good reason. Is Rogue just kind of dead here? He very well might be. These couple of Banelings kind of crash in. Massive counterattack. uThermal doesn't get the depot lift. Well, he's going to take some damage, but obviously he is doing a ridiculous amount of damage at the same time. All of these queens will just keep on dropping. This Spore Crawler is going to be in trouble. I see a lot of SCVs continue to fall as this Baneling Nest is going to go down too. I mean, now you don't even have Baneling speed. Okay, 27 SCVs have died on the other side of the map, so this run by has been terrifying. It has been continuous. Rogue actually still has 76 drones, but he's got to be able to take these workers and actually put these workers into use, right? I mean, you've got to actually get up an army that can properly kill what uThermal already has here. Now you can see Rogue's going to start losing workers, and I just don't know if he got enough mining off of it to really justify it, or to kind of get back into this at all, or anything like that. So yeah, kind of looks... I mean, are we going to get enough of a cleanup now? Rogue is coming through with a few more Lings. There's not many Hellbats left. Finally, it looks as though we're getting there. Also going to be seeing those Banshees coming back around one more time. They're just going to work their way through that hatchery. So hatchery taking some shots. You're going to see a drone going down, some Lings going down. I mean, uThermal is still ahead on army supply. The Banshee count is genuinely a problem as well. Just continuously killing queens and not giving them a chance to stabilize, although a couple of them have just gone down. Some new Hellion Cyclones showing up, but can that fight against enough of the Zerglings? It's going to need a couple more Hellbats to show up here to really just soften up the Zerglings properly, and to go from there, as we are going to be seeing, I think uThermal... I mean, it's so weird, right? It's a 15-worker lead for Rogue. uThermal has an army advantage that he's trying to put to use, but the thing is, his army honestly isn't that good against this amount of Lings now. He needs, like, an extra couple of Hellbats in production. Like, Hellbats and Hellions are the one thing he really needs to show up with across the map right now, and they are coming, to be fair. They're on the way. Another Queen going to go down. I mean, this has been a hectic affair, as we're going to see a couple of Zerglings picked away at two. They will go down now. This drone line is going to be in some trouble as well. It has to evacuate also. And the few Zerglings still trying to get themselves involved. They want to try and jump in on this. Some Banes are going to show up too. A single Hellbat goes to the front to try and tank. The split is good, as the Banelings will do alright, don't get me wrong, but will they do enough? I mean, forcing the split is great as well, because it gives these Zerglings a better chance of a surround, but it is not enough in the end. And uThermal is going to take game one off of Rogue, and Rogue will fall down a map. Ooh. Biscuits and the spread are incredible. Yeah, we love Biscoffy spread. We eat a lot of Biscoffy spread, actually. So, bottom left-hand side of Blackburn is the blue Terran player from Team Liquid. It is uThermal. And in the bottom right, we are going to have our Red Zerg player, Rogue, from Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Well, I'm excited about this because actually I feel like uThermal taking the first map gives me some hype for maybe getting 3 games here. 5-player round robin group, long way to go in the group, of course. 1 match win does not seal the deal for you, of course. I mean, don't forget the other day, Mana beat Trap 2-0. And then didn't win a series after and was eliminated from the group, so not the best possible start, and it all came crumbling down afterwards. So just keep that in mind a little bit, you know. Just a win against Rogue wouldn't guarantee anything for anyone. Obviously sets you up well, but like I say, there's work to be done beyond that too. See on the natural, it's going to be a reactor very quickly. So reactor first gives you some cool openings as well, gives you some builds that can actually create a lot of pressure very quickly. So see how that goes. Not a lot to pick apart here. I do like this the reactor first. I feel like the mind game is pretty cute as well, right? You make it look like maybe there's a proxy or something, or you just take away the information from Rogue a bit by building your production deeper in your main. That can go a pretty long way, so I do like that. I think that's a neat little something. As Marines will get rid of a Ling on the ramp. Just going to be seeing our few other Marines joining back together. So again, plenty of Marines early. Factory building a reactor of its own. So this is actually a build that uThermal will always love to do, where you basically have 14 Marines, a Widow Mine, and 2 Medivacs. It first came around in 2016, and I remember that simply because it came around the same sort of time as the 2-1-1 build. And this 2-1-1 was pretty effective, obviously, but this was like something that kind of can look a bit 2-1-1-esque because you've got obviously a lot of Marines, but then it hits a bit sooner. And like I say, 40 Marines, a Widow Mine, they go into two Medivacs, and they hit just that much earlier than a 2-1-1 would. It can be pretty effective, it can be pretty dangerous, so excited to see what will come out of that. Here's our drop. So boosting across a fusion core follow-up. He does, yeah, now that I see that, I do remember he's done this a few times lately where he goes for this double drop into battlecruisers, into mech in general. Just jump straight into these first few lings and actually going to be able to trade pretty okay. Now the Queen's shown up a little bit late to the party. A Widow Mine might be able to splash onto the Queens a little bit too, and that's going to weaken them up. No transfuses left, and Queens are starting to drop as uThermal comes on through. He's got a good amount of Marines remaining and still just chasing Queens. 20 more Lings on the way, but every Queen you kill is a little bit less anti-air to deal with the battlecruisers, right? And I mean, that's going to be a huge problem further down the line. Uh-oh. Is Rogue in some serious trouble here? I actually think he is. Like I say, 2 of these Queens are very low already. A 3rd Queen now very low as well. I actually think he's genuinely going to be in some trouble, perhaps, given some time. Gonna get 1 more Queen now. Would love to get the other before transfusion, of course, but not quite gonna happen. I think uThermal has done more than enough on an opening. So many Lings trailed into that as well. Now we're gonna be seeing the double evolution chamber and the setup to try, and the Roach Roaring 2, and the setup to try and play against what you might expect to be mech. So that part of it, I think, is right, but is he going to be ready to deal with the battlecruisers? After losing that many queens, it's going to be tough. And even if the BCs just force, like, a few more units out and, you know, force more queens to be focused on, even that alone is going to be a little bit tough right now as Hellions escape to the upper right. As our factory is following this up as well, by the way, so we will indeed see this being mech to round out the entirety of this opening. Factory is going to be done soon. Like I say, the first BC finishing. I mean, it looks like Rogue's got just a very good scout and read on it. I mean, he is just building more queens. Spores are coming up. So actually, we'll probably be able to deal with this fairly well. However, here come the Hellions alongside the BC, and this is where the main issue might be. The fact that you just don't have a lot of units as Rogue because of what happened earlier. So, these Lings are coming through. If there was an armory and you could have morphed these Hellions into Hellbats, I think Rogue might have been dead. But in this case, Rogue's going to be able to just about clean up and push it back. No more workers lost. Still pressure that adds up over time. Damage that, you know, trade outs which Rogue has to spend money on. So still a few problems here and there. Scanning up onto the natural expansion to see what's happening with that. Not a lot, in all honesty. Obviously just double checking to see if you can see any, maybe catch a spire, but in general just kind of roughly seeing what you're maybe building. So uThermal just picking up a little bit of info, wants to know maybe what he needs to prepare against and prepare for in this. Aliens are going to come through and they are going to find a few drones in the back, so quite a few drones already going down. 5 workers killed. A nice catch with these Hellions able to get 5 drones right off the bat. Now there's a couple of armories still coming through. And we're ready for our mech upgrades. That, my friends, is how this build goes. It's a very cool build, right? Just, I think the idea behind it all is very cool. It really throws you off the kind of trail of common sense almost. As the Zerg, you know, you're like, oh, well, this should lead into that, no, and then that, no. You know what I mean? I really feel like one thing really, you know, helps to snowball the next thing along too, and I think that's always kind of cool in these kind of builds as well. When, you know, what happens initially has a major effect on what happens next. Obviously, killing all those queens early potentially gives you that chance to overwhelm with the BCs. Like I say, Rogue had a good scout and feeling for what was going on, so he was able to deal with it decently. But I mean, he's still in trouble. Rogue is still down on workers in this game. He's losing workers to BCs now, which just teleported home. They can now be used to defend against these roaches, as they will fly through, and obviously will fight a couple of overseers. Okay, I mean, 8 workers going down either side. That's fine, because as far as uThermal sees this, he's in a position where, well, he's equal on workers with the Zerg. I mean, if you're equal on workers, you are in a good place. And that's where Rogue might find his biggest problems, as he is just massing units. Looks like he's going to get ready to go for a bust. Can he do that off of a weakened economy? Well, I mean, that's what we watch the games for, to find out. So, we'll see very, very soon. These roaches just slowly make their way through the rocks. Aliens moving the Hellbats. Army out to that right-hand side is thinking about what it wants to try and do. Obviously, Corrupted to try and deal with the BCs. He actually did start to add on a few more workers, so I wonder if Rogue just looked at this and said, yeah, actually, I'm not going to break this, so now going to, you know, play into, or try and transition into a more macro setup. I'd imagine that's how we go. Massive catch, those Hellions get taken down instantly, so no run-by potential on the gold base. Nice for uThermal, nice for Rogue to stop uThermal in his tracks there, because that's just more workers waiting to go down that you just really can't afford to go down. No, you just can't deal with that. That's going to be seeing our tanks all set up. I mean, uThermal will have a push here soon, right? As Blue Flame finishes, Yamato gets done. See Rogue still making a few of those banelings. Game really does take a few moments to settle down. The 1-1 mech weapons are going to be coming in. These upgrades are good for uThermal too. I love using these BCs to clear creep, but Rogue is also not afraid to just expand. He says, well, I'm playing against mech, and if I'm playing against mech, you know, you're not going to be able to put a lot of pressure on to kind of stop me doing things, so I'm just going to expand, expand, expand. That'll be my plan to kind of just, you know, get well set up in this, as we do see Roach Ravager going to try and knock down this set of rocks. Bit of damage being done, nothing too wild though. Roaches and Ravagers going back over the right side. Scan comes down, we are going to get these tanks setting up. Try and eat a bunch of these shots. I mean, the BCs have to pull back away from those biles initially. Tanks are still sieging. I mean, the Corruptors will kill the BCs. I think the BCs getting themselves caught a little bit off guard there, but now the Corruptors, there's nothing really else fight them, right? Because he never made Cyclones. There's like a couple Cyclones. Turrets maybe deter them from caustic spraying down this base. I mean, it's really the ground army for uThermal that's looking good. I mean, Rogue is about to attack. At least he thought about it, but all of these tanks are still here, so Rogue just takes a bunch of losses right away. Losing out on a bunch of those Banes. Rogue obviously focusing more on just rebuilding ground army, but I actually feel like uThermal's army is going to be pretty terrifying to attack into. He does have reinforcements coming through in the form of Cyclones as well, so he's going to add a bit more mobility to his army as well. The Ravager goes down on the top side. It's going to be seeing this we're setting up to come on through uThermal. Does he want to keep on pushing? It looks like he does. He really wants to keep this position. I'm kind of surprised Rogue didn't go for a counterattack at some stage. Here we go. Big fight will break out. The Banes go rolling in, aiming for the Hellbats mostly, as now maybe seeing a chance to get some of the tanks. I mean, both players are going to lose a lot of supply here, but I think that's maybe a bit more significant for Rogue, although Rogue also rebuilds right away, so maybe it doesn't matter quite so much. uThermal will be left with units in the center here, but I don't think these units survive a rebuild. And I think that's what's really scary, that you're just not going to be able to deal with these reinforcements, but then you kind of have to, because if you try and pull away, you're going to get caught by the reinforcements as well. Is there any winning for uThermal in that scenario? Maybe if these units really can just, you know, deal with the rebuild. Right now, Rogue didn't jump on this right away either. These Hellions took some attention away to the top side. Okay. Well, that might be a bit more, I don't know if I was thinking that was maybe going to be a bit more decisive or something, but all good. Bit of Spire coming up. Just going to see our Spine Crawls coming through our Lings building. And Adrenal Glands is coming in as well, so just getting that up and running with the +3 melee upgrades and missile upgrades, but also Burrow. Intrigued to see what the Burrow gets used for. Maybe just burrowing drones if like there's a Hellion run by or something. Wouldn't be, I mean, what else can you burrow for against a mech army? Not really much, unless you're trying to like tunneling claw roach it. So yeah, just a general upgrade to kind of help across the board. Oh, Rogue gets the jump on this army before it's really ready to go. The first Cyclones aren't locking on right away, as the Banes do come in from the other side too, but those Banes go through the slow zone, so it takes them a long time to get there. Now the Cyclone's able to re-engage on top of the Roach Ravager. Every single Corruptor ends up going down. And again, you've got an army of uThermal that will keep pushing forwards. This time, Rogue doesn't quite fully remax either, and uThermal supply is a bit healthier too. Gonna catch a few of these Morphing Ravagers, and actually really bad that they just finish an insta-die. Oh dear, these tanks are sieged, and let's see if they can deal with the Roaches and the Lings that will stream on in, or did uThermal go too far forward with this army? It looks like uThermal went a bit too far forward with it, but at the same time, he did get damage done with it. It wasn't like it just all fell apart. He did get some damage done with that as well, as more Roaches and more Ravagers continue to build up from Rogue. Maybe the counterattack potential is going to be pretty sizable here as well. I feel like uThermal needed to do something like push forward, because he's won some of these fights, you know, defensively all the time, you know, when in that position. If you don't do anything on the follow-up, Rogue is just outmining you. Maybe you could have, at the same time as that fight happens, you go to the top side and you kind of work with it like that. Yeah, possibly. uThermal's going to be denied the gold base by this Roach Ravager moving through, so that's going to have to lift off and relocate elsewhere. And uThermal is going to have his army jumped on here. Corrosive Val's getting rid of multiple tanks. That is going to do it. Rogue is going to tie up this series 1-1. Good effort from uThermal, but this time, Rogue actually, I mean, just mech. Alright guys, in the bottom right hand side of the map, our red Zerg player tying it up against the mech play is Rogue. Let's see this go to a game 3. And in the top left hand side of the map, our blue Terran player from Team Liquid is uThermal. Game 3 of the series as we get this up and running. Wondering what uThermal brings this time. Like I say, so far a couple of fun different builds, right? And like I say, quirky builds that still have that semblance of normality to them to make them, you know, good. And that's what uThermal always brings to these matches. And so far, has been pretty fun. Reaper's on the way out this time, so already seen a little bit of a difference to what we've seen previously. This Reaper's just going to be setting up then, and we'll come across the map and we'll see how uThermal wants to utilize that. Try and pick up a bit of info, etc. You know how Reapers go. We know what they're used for. There is no secrecy here. Again, Rogue uThermal will be followed by Rogue versus Zest, by the way, then Rogue versus Spirit to wrap up our live matches today. The other matches are being played in sync with these matches, and obviously we'll cast a couple of those from replays. In general, though, I only have about 2.5 to 3 hours left to stream today, guys. Just another cool warning to that. We're picking up our new puppy today. Picking up our new puppy today in about 3 and a bit hours time, so I can only stream for another 2.5 to 3 hours. Just a little reminder that we'll be limited on how many matches we cast today based on that. Reaper pulls back. Let's just get a starport going down. It's going to be seeing our feelings coming through in that Reaper. Just going to have to dance with them a little bit. Queen's come through, Reaper gets pushed away. Again, a couple of Hellions still just on the way through as our Link speed is about halfway done. Just going to be seeing our Links continuing up. Our CC about to finish. Tech Lab coming through on the barracks back at home, so just getting everything settled. Is there a possibility we play Bio here for this game number 3? Is the one thing that I'm thinking a little bit, like, is that a possibility? Yeah, uThermal's still good at Bio, right? It's just he played mech a couple times in a row. I know sometimes he just prefers mech against the Koreans. That Stimpack will start up from uThermal, so we are going to see the Bio. I like it, though. I mean, 2 mech games and a Bio game, right? You keep it fresh, you keep it different. Rogue doesn't know necessarily how you like to play Bio yet. He doesn't know the sort of ways you like to, you know, approach the game. He hasn't been able to create a feel for that throughout the first 2 maps. As our Lings are able to grab a Reaper, so that Reaper gets picked off. And this Viking will kill the Overlord. Aliens into the center of the map. Braxton engineering base coming through. Stimpack is well underway as well. So that's about halfway through at the moment as I mean, obviously, we'll see what uThermal wants to do. 4 more racks on the way, so I mean, that is just powering up the production a bit. I mean, expected, I suppose, after 3cc. Yeah, a lot of little setup time. I actually have a shout out to get going to Taybuck125. Hit us up with the Prime sub. Thank you so much, mate. Sorry that it took a little while to get around to it, just obviously. Games have been a little bit hectic and fun. I appreciate the Prime. Thank you so much. As mentioned, it goes a long way to these events. Continuing subscribing, we take $1 of each sub, put it into a tournament prize pool. We do take money off the Patreon as well, guys. 100% of what you pledge on patreon.com/WardiTV goes into the tournament prize pools as well. Supporting that is one of the best ways to make sure that these events keep on happening. We've been able to maintain about $600 a month on Patreon at the moment, which is fantastic. Obviously, that gives us just a couple $1,000 extra to put into tournaments every 3 months or so, which is about how often we do a a bigger event, you know? Aliens pull back to the top side. Mainly speed is on the way up. Burrow coming through. Melee upgrades coming out. Factories continuing through as our Marines will continue forward. Ling goes down. These Queens in a bit of trouble, perhaps. What am I going to help? Ooh, blows up a few Marines. I guess they weren't getting out anyway, though, because only one medevac. So, a little bit of pressure from uThermal. He's a bit supply blocked. Needs to get out of that, of course. Keep his production rolling. One of the worst things that can happen in TVZ is you get supply blocked and lose a round of production, because your production really does rely so much on this idea of just continuous waves, ready for reinforcements all the time. You know, and if you get supply blocked, not only delays this wave, it delays the next wave as well. So, yeah, a little rough. Marines and Hellbats will continue through. Hellbats do power up this attack a little bit, but don't think it's enough to like break through Rogue. Rogue's playing just very Lingbane heavy now into the infestation pit, so would be surprised to see him kind of, you know, full victim to just not enough units here, as things actually took a while to keep on coming through. Of course, uThermal just trades out the Hellbats, lifts the Marines, and brings them back. He's just going to try and keep the pressure everywhere, but there is good creep spread on the map. A bit of creep through this bottom side at the moment. We're going to get an Overlord kill here too. So Overlord goes down. More creep team is being picked away at. There's a couple of Widow Mines will fire away, and a few more Zerglings just getting cleaned up. Marines and our Widow Mines will continue through, and actually going to get a couple of those Burrowers. Ooh, the Lings do not get hit by them though. Not just yet. They dodge away for now. Actually, he does get a nice Widow Mine shot there, which hits a few Banelings, but then the Overseers tank a couple of Widow Mine shots, putting 2 of the 3 remaining ones on cooldown. There was one left, but low HP, so it goes down before it fires. Nice cleanup from Rogue, pushing that back, and again, minimizing the possible damage that could have been done. T2 will be finishing shortly from uThermal, as obviously that will just power him up for a little bit. He'll have a small amount of time where he'll be on the lead in upgrades. Of course, Rogue is making that big switch up into the Hydras and hence the Lurkers, and once they get powered up, it does generally change the pacing of a TVZ so very much. Massive Ling run by that will get the bunker. Marine's not going to move down to deal with it yet. uThermal focusing elsewhere. He gets rid of the Banelings on this fight, and now he's fighting with Marines against Queen Hydra and actually doing very well with it. Just, you know, not enough units here right away, and just streaming units in, taking a little while. At the same time, there's these medevacs here. They got handled, it seems. They will pull back, but that was a bit of a better fight for uThermal. He killed a lot there, in fact. Look at the army graph, and look how much Rogue just lost. That is a very substantial amount of units to be missing out on. That really does hurt a bit. So Rogue losing out on quite a bit. uThermal now pushing through the middle of the map with a bit of an army supply lead. But lurkers are on the way, so can you make something happen before lurkers are up? I mean, it's difficult, because you can probably start a fight. You're not going to push through and kill anything more than, like, one base before those lurkers are done. Though the lurkers are all on the left-hand side. They don't have that range upgrade yet either. uThermal forced back a little bit. Nice Widow Mines reaching. But as the lurkers power up, uThermal's going to type out GG. The reason he's going to GG, I think, is because... I was going to say he's... Yes, because he's only got 3 bases, right? So this base actually died, and he actually had to rebuild this base. So he's kind of on like a 3-base all-in almost, and if the lurkers are up, he's not going to get any base kills, and he is going to go to 5. I looked in the structures tab, and I saw, oh, he's got a 4th base, but he actually lost an orbital. So because he lost an orbital, he's actually only on 3 bases with a more or less mined-out main. And he just doesn't have the setup to really fight against those lurkers in a long game, which Rogue is absolutely set up to go into, so... It's a, I was a little shocked, and then I was like double checking, and yeah, it made sense that, you know, you're essentially just all in, and once the lurkers are out, it makes your life extremely difficult. I didn't realize